it's your boy Steven, and I'm here to do my pink glam makeup tutorial look. I'm gonna do everything step by step and do a little bit of voiceover to help you guys understand what's going on. So when I do my makeup, I always start with my brows first. So I went ahead and just started filling in the sparseness. Anywhere where there was just a little bit of emptiness or where I wanted to make my brows look a little more symmetrical, I would fill them in. And then after that, I took my e.l.f. concealer and I'm just gonna clean that up. Also, I used the Maybelline Pomade. I'm pretty sure it was in dark brown for my shade. I've got my e.l.f. concealer. I'm just gonna clean around, make those edges real nice. I'm also going to take my Mist and Fix, my Makeup Forever, wet my brush just so I can blend out some of that concealer and make everything look real nice and blended. The reason that I wet my brush before blending my concealer is just to help everything blend a little bit easier. Sometimes if you use a dry brush, it'll either be a little bit splotchy or it just won't go as smoothly versus wetting the brush a little bit. You don't want it to be soaking wet, but just a little bit of dampness just to help blend that out. I'm also going to go ahead and do the top of my brow just so we can have a nice full clean brow on the top and the bottom. Just going to get that as close to the brow as possible and just drag that out. And then after we do that, of course, we're going to blend and smooth everything out yet again. And look at that, voila, we've got a nice brow. Let's do the other. Bam. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and prime my lids with some Urban Decay Anti-Aging Eyeshadow Potion. This will just help my shadow lay a little bit smoother, last a little bit longer, go on easier, blend out easier, all that good stuff. Just going to go ahead and do my first eye, then I'll do my second eye off camera. Then I'm going to grab my Jeffree Star and Morphe eyeshadow palette. It's the Artistry palette, and I'm going to go between the shades Back and Channel. I'm going to mix them together and then put it straight into my crease. I'm going to pack it on there first, and then after we'll blend it out. I always like to pack my color in first and then blend it second so that we're getting some nice pigmentation, and then we smooth it out right after to make everything look nice and clean. Go ahead and take the blending brush and blend that right up into my brow. And then I'm going to go ahead and do my second eye. After that, I'm going to take the shade Boss Angeles and I'm going to pack that right into my outer corner just to give my eye a little bit of dimension. I wanted to choose a slightly darker shade than the first two to give a little bit of shadowing in the outer corner of my eye. And I'm just going to blend that in. Next, I'm taking Self-Made, which is one of my favorite shadows in the palette, and I'm going to pack that all over the center, avoiding the very inner center of my eye because I'm going to put a little glitter there later. But I'm just going to pack that over top all the color I've got going on and then blend it out into my crease as well. And then I'm going to do my second eye. Bam. Once again, I'm going to take my e.l.f. concealer and I'm going to put that into the inner corner of my eye just to create a little cut crease moment. I'm going to start from the very inner part and then work towards the center of my eye, just dragging and patting that down. And then blending it out a little bit. Then I'm going to take the shade Don't Know Her and pat that all into where I just put the concealer. Going to create a nice cut crease glittery moment with that. But like I said, I'm going to avoid the smallest little spot in the very inner corner so that I can add a little bit of glitter there later. I'm just going to pack that on and try to get as much payoff as possible. Then we're going to take my absolute favorite shade, Custom Rims, and we're going to drag that all along the front of my eye, right in the crease. And pack it in closest to the eye and then drag it out a little bit. I'll go ahead and do my second eye off camera. I know, she's a model, ain't she? And then I'm going to take my makeup wipes and clean underneath both of my eyes just to catch any fallout or eyeshadow that fell underneath. Then I'm going to take my Almay lipstick in shade Smile, and I'm going to color correct all around my beard area and underneath my eyes just to stop any of that blue shade from coming through. Always like to put it on and then blend it out right after. Working it in as nice as possible because you don't want any of it to transfer with your foundation. And then once I get it nice and blended, I like to go over top of it with a little bit of powder. I'm going to be using the Coty Airspun powder in shade Translucent. I'm just going to go over top of all of that and then brush it right off. Once I get that all wiped off, I'm going to go in with my Born This Way foundation by Too Faced in shade Light Beige. I'm going to take my Morphe foundation brush and just kind of rub that all over. And then I'll take my damp beauty blender and just kind of work that in, going back and forth between the sponge and the brush, just so I can get as much coverage as possible. I'm gonna also work that down onto my neck. I usually like everything to be one shade. I usually also do my ears, but who's got time for that? At this step, I like to be really careful not to mess up my brows, so I just blend as close to my brow as possible without actually disturbing the brow itself. Just gonna blend all over to make sure everything's nice and seamless. Gonna grab that e.l.f. Camo Concealer, and we're gonna tuck that in under my eyes. I actually learned this trick from a really good YouTuber. His name is Robert Welsh. I'll tag him underneath the caption, but he just showed me that you tuck a little bit of concealer in the front of your eye and a little bit at the back, and then blend it over so that way you don't get as much creasing rather than putting it completely underneath of your eye. I'm just gonna blend that in per usual. Then I'm going to grab my L'Oreal Infallible foundation stick. I'm using it in shade 411. I'm going to use that for my contour underneath my cheekbones, across the edges of my forehead, and then down the bridge of my nose, just to give us a little dimension. I'm going to take my damp beauty sponge and just blend that all out. Now I definitely put a little bit too much on this side, but it's fine because we're just going to blend it in. As long as you're blending it in really well and then using my powder to clean it up after, then everything is fine. I even used my foundation shade beauty blender that I used just to go over it and soften it a little bit, and then went back in with the beauty blender that I used for my concealer just to clean in under my eye a little bit, just so that everything looks really nice and clean and even on each side. Then I'm going to take my Coty Airspun, again in shade Translucent, and lay that over top of everything just to set it into place, keep it from moving, and to stop a little bit of that oil from peering through. Pack that in everywhere and then blend it right off. Next, I'm going to be taking my True Complexion contour palette. It's in the shade Light to Medium. I'm just going to work that over top of where I had that contour before, except it's in a powder this time. Usually lay my powders over top of my cream so that everything blends in really well and lays nice and smooth, and it just adds a little extra dynamic to what we already had going on. Gonna take my brush, my powder brush that I used, and just go over top of everything just to kind of work it in, blend it out a little better. Then I'm gonna take my Coty Airspun translucent powder, and I'm gonna clean underneath my contours. Gonna go underneath my cheekbones, and I'll also go over my mustache a little bit, and then the middle of my forehead. Then I'm gonna set some underneath my eyes to help all that concealer set into place. I'm gonna clean it up from my contour a little bit, just so everything is the right color where I want it to be. I'm gonna work that all the way up to the sides of my nose so that my contour is nice and sharp as well. I'll work a little bit more of that in there, and then I'm gonna let it sit for a little bit so that it bakes into my skin. After that, we'll go ahead and wipe part of it off, being sure to leave what's underneath of my eye and underneath my cheekbones there. Gonna grab my James Charles and Morphe eyeshadow palette and grab the shade Rusted from the top row to use as my blush color. And then I'm just gonna clean the rest of that powder right off. It's set long enough. Then I'm gonna take a small shadow brush and take some of the shade Self-Made and go back underneath my eye to connect that. And voila, both eyes are done. Look at that, she's cute. Now I'm going to mix the shade So Good and Ring Light back and forth to create my highlight shade. Yes, that's right, I'm using eyeshadows as my highlighter because James Charles did that. And look at that. Now you see me taking a makeup wipe and just wiping some of that product and foundation off of my lips so if they're nice and clean and prepped and ready for lipstick. After applying a little bit of rose oil gloss, I'm going to take the Nars lipstick in shade Tolede, and I'm going to take my Morphe lip brush and just apply that all over. And yes, it's a sample pack because I work at Sephora, and that's on what? Period. Now I'm going to take one of my favorite pencil eyeliners. That is the Kat Von D Cake Pencil Eyeliner in shade Trooper Black, and I'm just going to go underneath my eye. And then take the Kat Von D Brow Pomade in Whiteout and tuck that into my inner corner to create a fake inner eye. Doing that on both sides. Now I'm going to be taking one of my favorite liquid liners, and that is the Kat Von D Tattoo Liner in shade Trooper Black, and I'm going to line my top lid with that. Following up with Maybelline's Colossal Big Shot Mascara before I add my false lashes, just to prep and start them. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab my Cluster Lashes by Salon Perfect and add those on. And then for final touches, I'll go back in with my Kat Von D liquid liner just to create beauty marks. And that's the final look. She's stunning, she's perfect, she's a model. She could go out there in a diaper and they would still eat her up every single time she stepped on the runway. Alright, thank you all so much for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe and tune in to the next one.